But tonight I'm so excited to welcome the one and only Professor Raymond Atuguba on this platform. Prof, you're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, Daniel.
Yeah, so you tutored me in a lot of ways. I've learned a lot of things. Today we have the opportunity that you come on live and then you share with the rest of the HiCAT community and our friends out there who is Prof Raymond Atuguba. So normally I should be introducing you, but I don't want to leave some things out. So I'll allow you to do the introduction. And then if you leave some things out, I will ask. So please, who is Prof Raymond Atuguba?
Well, that's a difficult question. To start with, I don't know whether I'm Ghanaian or Burkinabe, because the citizenship laws of Ghana say that you are a Ghanaian if you are born in Ghana and either your father or mother or grandmother or grandfather is a Ghanaian. Now, if you trace that backwards, I would say that I qualify to be a Ghanaian because my father and my mother were both Ghanaians. But if they are to establish their Ghanaian nationality, they have to trace it to their fathers and their grandmothers. If you do that to the third or fourth generation, you're going to land in Burkina Faso, which will therefore make me a Burkinabe. So I'm just trying to illustrate that sometimes we feel we know ourselves, but we really don't. Knowing yourself is a journey. And each and every day, there are things that you discover about yourself that you may never have known. So for now, what I know is that I'm a teacher. I've been teaching all my life. When I was in school, my classmates told me that I was going to be a teacher. I didn't understand it. But now I'm a teacher. I teach in Legon at the law school. I also happen to be a lawyer. And I do some consulting also. So that's me.
Right. Thank you very much. I mean, the kind of response you've given us makes the question simple, but you said it's a difficult question earlier. So you were born where, and where do you come from?
So my parents were working in Nalerugu, near Baumea's hometown.
Okay.
When I was born, but when I was about to be born, my mother went to Bolga where her brother was a nurse. So I was born in Bolga, but brought back to Nalerugu.
Okay.
And that's where we lived until I was 5 years old. Nalerugu is a very small village it used to be in the northern region, but I believe it is now northeast or something like that. Then we moved to Boku in the Upper East region for 3 years. And then we moved to Damongo, which then was in the northern region, but is now in the Savannah region, I believe. Damongo is also a small town. Boku is also a small town. So I lived all my childhood in various small towns around northern Ghana.
And Prof, your siblings, how many are you? Are you the first or the last born?
No. I'm neither first nor last. I'm somewhere in the middle. So we are 5, 3 boys, 2 girls.
3 boys, 2 girls. And you're in the middle?
I'm actually second. I'm
second. Okay. All right. And so, Prof, what about education? You started the education at Bolga or Boku?
No, so I started education in Nalerugu.
Okay.
So the first school I attended was the Nalerugu Local Authority Primary School. At that time, they called them Local Authority Primary Schools. Those were the with government schools. So there was no day nursery in that town. So I had to go straight to class 1. And my parents decided to put me in school at age 4. So at age 4, I had to go to class 1.
Wow.
I don't remember much about it. What I remember was sitting on stones in the classroom, using old batteries to paint our slates, and then writing on it with chalk. Running off from school to do Sriganli. I don't know, anyone who's from the north might know what Sriganli is. You go to a slope and then you sit on the slope and then you slide down. You do that for about 2-3 weeks. You get holes at the bottom of your school shorts and then you get a beating at home. Those are the few things I remember from class 1. For class 2, we moved to Boku. So I did class 2, class 3, and class 4 in Boku. And then I did class 5, class 6 in Damongo. As I said, we kept moving around because my parents were teachers and they kept being posted to different parts of the north.
I think at a point your dad was in charge of education in the Upper East also. Or...
Yes, that's true. So he started off as a teacher, then he became a headmaster, and then he became a district director of education, and then he became a regional director of education. So that's when I'm sure you must have noticed.
Yeah, that's where I got it from. So Prof, from primary, where did you do your secondary? I hosted someone who mentioned that you attended the same school.
Okay.
You did St. Charles?
I did St. Charles Form 1 to Form 5. And then I did St. Hubert Seminary in Kumasi for sixth form. I wanted to become a priest, so I went to that seminary sixth form.
Please tell us about it. What happened?
When I
you
was...
did minor, St. Charles, St. Hubert, then
yes.
You should have just continued to the major seminary.
I was not very sure, so I applied to the seminary and then applied to the university.
Okay.
And I told myself that whichever letter came first, that's where I was going, because that's where God wanted me to go. So the letter from the university came first, and so I went to the university.
And you didn't consider the seminary again?
No. At that point, I had decided.
I don't know whether Sister Pascaline has something to do with this.
No, we hadn't met at that time.
You know, I suspect she has to do with the discernment process. Well, thank you very much for sharing your background growing up and the places that you've schooled. So it means that from St. Hubert, then you moved on to the University of Ghana.
Yes, I went to University of Ghana. I studied law. At that time, it was an undergraduate program. So I studied law. Whilst we were there, the universities went on strike for 1 year. The lecturers went on strike for 1 year. So we sat at home for 1 year. So instead of finishing school in 3 years, we finished school in 4 years. Then we went to Ghana School of Law to do 2 years, and then we were called to the bar. Before I was called to the bar, I had decided that I wanted to do graduate studies. So when I was in first year law school, I applied to Oxford, Cambridge, Yale, and Harvard. And I got admissions and I decided to choose Harvard, although at that time I didn't have full scholarship for Harvard. I had school scholarship for some of them, but I didn't want to go to those. I don't know why. I just decided I wanted to go to Harvard. So,
and these are the top 4. These are kind of the top 4 universities that we have.
I was ambitious, so I decided to try them. I wanted to see whether a village boy could go to Harvard.
And I guess after you, there are people that you have taught who have gone in there as well, both those from villages and those from towns.
Oh, definitely. When I got there, I realized that some other African countries were sending students to Harvard every single year, consistently.
Wow.
So I immediately
Wow.
started working on that.
Mm.
So if you check in the records, from when I got to Harvard Law School, every single year, there are students going there from Ghana. You know, so we start by sending in the application forms. In those days, it was hard copy. So you send the application forms to people, encourage them to apply, teach them the tricks. Later on, started writing recommendations for them. And then at the point, anyone who came, I told them, look, go to those that came after me to assist you. So don't come to me. So for about, I don't know, more than 10 years now, I don't think I've written only one recommendation, I believe, to Harvard. So I'd normally direct you to other people who came after me to support you through the process.
Wow, this is just interesting, and if we could explore this so you made it your personal goal to ensure that every year we get someone from Ghana going to Harvard Law School.
Yes, and then it expanded beyond that to other institutions. So, I mean, I have two achievements in life. The first achievement is that I have the best wife on earth and two kids who are also the best. That's the first achievement of my life. My second and last achievement is that I have assisted over 150 people to do PhD and master's studies.
So all of them went to Harvard, or they went to other?
No, they went to different schools.
Different schools, okay.
US, Canada, Europe mainly.
So normally you guide them through the application process, or you direct them to one of the others whom you have helped before. Exactly. Then they will give them the guidelines as to what they are supposed to do.
Exactly.
That's a huge achievement.
When I got tired, when the numbers started increasing, I'd send some to other people to assist. And then sometimes you have to call the schools and tell them how good these people are, and then negotiate scholarships for them. You know how it is. Not everyone who can get $100,000 to pay for a course. Some of them cost up to $300,000, some PhDs. So unless you get a scholarship, you you can't make it. There was a time that anytime I was going to get fund, the people would start running because they knew I was coming to get scholarships for students. Somebody like Sangaba was always hiding from me because I would track him down and harass him until he grants scholarships to students.
Wow, that's interesting. I know a lot of them. Having worked with you for some time, some of the people that we worked with, at the point I realized almost all of them were going through Harvard. Almost all of them were going through Harvard, and I took a different path. But Prof, why did you choose law?
So there was a time that I thought I was going to go into politics. So I thought that law would be a mechanism for that. Because at that time, I was reading a lot of liberation theory and the life and times of people like Steve Biko and Mandela and all that. And they were politicians, but they were also lawyers. Mandela was a lawyer. So at that time, I thought the best route to do politics for social change was to do law. When I wanted to be a priest, it was because I saw that the priests in the villages we used to stay in were those who were engaged in a lot of social change. They were providing healthcare, they were providing education, they were providing social services. That's the reason why I wanted to become a priest. And then when I thought that this could be broadened, I thought that the way to do this was to do it through politics. And now I know better. I was naive at that time.
In addition to the law, you decided to teach.
Yes.
So is that after the footsteps of your dad, or something else motivated that, or it's also just about bringing change into the world?
Yes. So when I got wiser, I realized that if you decide to create change just by yourself, there's very little you can do. And so one smart move is to try and create many people who think like you and want to do the things you want to do. And then those people can, as a group, as a team, both do more than you could have done alone, but also guide and infect other people to do that. And that's why, so it's not just because I want to get people into PhD programs or master's degrees that I do that. It's because I believe that if you are able to give them that broader orientation and that new way of thinking, they can then go ahead to do far more than you could have done as an individual. So when I teach, what I try to do is to get my students to start thinking more broadly about the issues that confront us as a society and how they could create change and make the country and the world a better place.
Wow. And Prof, I guess you've been teaching for maybe 2 decades now, because yes. I saw you teaching when I was a student.
Yes. I've been teaching for 20 years now, going on 21 actually, 21 years.
I can't imagine the number of students that have passed through your hands.
Oh yes, there are a lot of students. When I started teaching in 2001, I would teach an average of 1,000 students a year. Because my class in the School of Administration would be about 400 to 600 students already. And then I had classes at the law school.
Okay.
Yeah, which together would be maybe roughly another 150, 200. And then I had the classes at the city campus. And then I used to do Galamsey also at Islamic University. So every year I'll teach like 1,000 students. And later on, it became a huge resource for me. Because wherever I went, I would meet somebody that was a former student of mine. And for some reason, all my former students have a relationship with me. And I have never met a former student who has been unhelpful. When I used to work at the office of the president, they used to pass a lot of information to me. Things that I would otherwise not have known. And some of it was very critical information. And some of them were doing things for me that I didn't even know. Like somebody would go to a newspaper and try to plant a story about me. And then a former student of mine would disrupt it. Or just tell the person, no, look, this thing is a lie. This guy won't do this. We are not going to publish this. And some of them would call me and tell me, I'll check and realize that it's indeed true that people were trying to do these things.
Prof, this is interesting. So we can imagine that by now you have, let's say, 20,000 or more, and almost all of them are just so happy to see you. For me, I can say one of the things that stands out is the humility around you. That makes it possible for everyone, every class. For instance, I come into your presence, and with all that you've achieved in your life, you make it so easy for people like us to come into contact with you. That sense of humility alone. But I guess there are other things that you do that makes your students to love you so much.
For your students to love you, you have to love them first. And loving your students means that you have to see them first as human beings and not objects. It's very easy when you are in a position of power to view others as instruments or objects or less than human. It happens. And there are some leaders who do it unconsciously because they're not conscious of what they're doing. So that's the first thing. You have to see them as human beings, as human as you are. And I treat my students as equals. So they are able to come to me with issues. They are able to come to me with information, with things that bother them. Yesterday, we had an issue with the law school entrance exam. I don't know if you heard. Yeah, there was an issue with the entrance exam, and then it was delayed and all that. I got the information from my students and former students very, very early on. And then they were able to also give me other information, which I was able to pass on to the appropriate people in order to address the issues. So it's useful. You would lose a lot if you are not able to treat people with respect. It's beneficial, even if you're doing it selfishly. It's beneficial because I mean, there's so many traps that have been set for me in life, so many challenges that I've faced in life, and the only way I've been able to overcome them is because I'm capable of relating to everybody at a personal level. And I'm able to know these things very quickly, well in advance, or to get assistance from people when they actually happen in order to resolve them.
Interesting. I remember one of the stories I heard that shocked me was that there was a certain lecturer at the University of Ghana who would organize a party for his students at the end of the course. Is it still running or it's on hold? So
it stopped due to COVID. And I started this year again, but unfortunately on that day, I had to attend I don't know whether it was the graduation. Yes, so it was the graduation day. And so one of our other lecturers represented me at the party. So I'm sure that from next year, we'll be back in swing again. But during COVID, we couldn't hold those parties.
So you've been doing this for years?
Yes, aside COVID, we've been doing this every year.
And you have sponsors for that, or you sponsor it?
Oh, I just reserve part of my salary of the year for that.
Wow.
Yeah.
So from your own pocket, the students you have taught and shared your words of knowledge with, you still throw a party for them?
Yes, because they also share knowledge with me. There are certain things that I learn from students. There are certain scripts that I mark And then I learned things from the scripts, which I would never have thought of as a lecturer. And then I added my lecture notes for the next year.
Wow. Prof, and you also got to serve in the office of the president. Former President John Mahama's office is one of those places you have served, apart from lecturing.
That is true.
And then now you are serving as the dean.
Yes.
And you still teach.
Yes.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. I think that deans should not teach much. Maybe you should just teach one course or a couple of hours in a week. Because the administrative job is a lot.
Yeah.
The administrative work is a lot.
Yeah. Wow. Prof, this is getting interesting.